Here is a question nobody asks, but everybody should. What is the very first thing you give your attention to every single day? Not the second thing, not once you have settled in. The very first thing your eyes open onto, your mind reaches for, your energy moves toward. Because that first thing is not just a habit, it is a declaration. It is a statement about who is in charge of your life, you or everything that is waiting to consume you. Most people hand that first moment away without a second thought. The phone, the feed, the anxiety spiral that begins when the notifications announce everything that went wrong while you were sleeping. And from that very first surrender, the day is already someone else's. The agenda is already set by forces that were never arranged in your favor. And the person who was supposed to show up, sharp, directed, anchored in their own purpose, has already been replaced by a reactor, a responder. A human being running on someone else's program before they have even had a chance to boot up their own. Win the morning, and you win far more than a few hours. You win the identity. You win the momentum. You win the psychological high ground that makes every hard thing that follows feel more manageable because you arrived at it, already having proved something to yourself, already having kept a promise, already having acted like the person you are trying to become before the world had a chance to argue you out of it. Welcome to Motivation Daily. Let me show you 3 people who turned this understanding into one of the most powerful weapons in their arsenal. Think about Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the history of capitalism. Cook wakes at 3:45 every morning, not because the job demands it, although it does, but because he understood something early in his leadership that most executives never grasp. The person who controls the first hours of the day controls the quality of everything the day produces. Cook uses those pre-dawn hours to read through emails, yes, but more importantly, to exercise, to think without interruption, to orient himself in the priorities that matter before the priorities that are merely urgent arrive and try to crowd everything else out. He has described the early morning as the only time of day that is truly his. Before the meetings, before the decisions, before the relentless demands of running a company that the world watches with a microscope. He does not start the day reacting to Apple. He starts the day deciding who he is going to be for Apple. And that distinction between reacting and deciding is the difference between being managed by your role and managing it. Now think about Anna Wintour, the editor-in-chief of Vogue and one of the most powerful figures in global media and fashion for over 3 decades. Wintour plays tennis every morning at 5:45, not as a wellness activity, not as a social occasion, but as a non-negotiable ritual that she has maintained through decades at the top of an industry that never stops moving and never stops demanding. She has spoken about the morning structure not in terms of physical fitness, but in terms of mental architecture. The discipline of showing up for something hard before the day officially begins creates a psychological baseline that the rest of the day is built on. It says, before a single editorial decision has been made, before a single cover has been approved or rejected, I am someone who does hard things. I showed up this morning when I could have stayed in bed. Every subsequent hard thing the day requires is measured against that already cleared bar and found easier for the clearing of it. And think about Hal Elrod, a man whose story begins not with success, but with clinical death. At 20 years old, Elrod was hit by a drunk driver traveling at 70 miles per hour, pronounced dead at the scene, and resuscitated after 6 minutes with no pulse. He was told he would never walk again. He walked. He recovered. And then, years later, he was hit by a different kind of devastation. The 2008 financial crisis destroyed his income, left him over $400,000 in debt, and sent him into a depression so severe that he describes it as a second near-death experience. The recovery from that second crisis was built entirely on a morning practice he developed and documented in a book called The Miracle Morning, a 6-part routine of silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and writing that he committed to completing every single day, regardless of how broken he felt. He did not wait to feel better to start the practice. He used the practice to get better. The Miracle Morning has now sold over 2 million copies and has been translated into 37 languages. A man who was pronounced dead at 20, told he would never walk, crushed financially at 30, built one of the most widely read morning methodology books in the world, entirely because he understood that how you start the day is not a preference. It is a practice. And the practice, compounded daily, is the life. Here's what those 3 people, a tech CEO, a fashion titan, and a man who survived clinical death, figured out that most people are still trying to feel their way toward. The morning is not a warm-up for the real day. The morning is the foundation on which the real day is built, and a foundation laid with intention, with the deliberate, conscious, purposeful decision to start as the person you want to be rather than as the person the world is trying to make you, changes the structural integrity of everything that comes after it. So today, right now, I want you to make one decision about tomorrow morning. Not a 47-step routine, not a perfect system that requires everything to go right. One decision. One thing you are going to do before you pick up your phone, before you respond to anything, before the world gets its first claim on your attention. One thing that says, this morning belongs to me first. Exercise. Pray. Write 1 page. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. Read something that builds you. Whatever it is, decide it now. Commit to it now. Because the version of your day that begins with that act is a fundamentally different day than the one that begins without it. Win the morning. The rest takes care of itself. Share this with someone who hands their mornings away and wonders why the day never goes the way they planned. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. We're here every single morning to help you win it. Drop a comment and tell me, what is the one thing you are committing to doing tomorrow before the world gets your attention? Name it right here. That commitment is the morning already beginning. Let's go.